43, and I am beginning the meeting. Meeting is called to order. Welcome all. Let's go back to share screen. Let's go find share screen, share. Okay, where am I?
There, yeah. Click on share at the bottom.
Okay, I'll get rid of that. Okay, so that's our agenda, which I always flash first. But let's go to the agenda. So the first is roll call. Let's see, Martin Walpuff present, Steve Fruit present, Sylvia Alexander present, Jill Towns present via Zoom with the approval of the chair of the board. And I'm glad we have a quorum and we can get some of these items addressed. Approval of March 9th, 2006 minutes. We did not have a meeting in April, which is why this meeting is so important. One of the reasons why this meeting is so important. Any comments on the minutes?
No, I move that the minutes be approved and accepted.
Okay, so Sylvia, you vote for the minutes?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the vote is 3-0 to 1, right? Jill?
You know me, Marty.
That's Jill's longstanding business.
That's why I counted. Okay. 3-0-1. Didn't even have to ask. I knew what was coming. Thank you.
Good.
Okay, so we'll go right past the minute. Up to chair's report. Sergio is not here. I repeat for the record again, Sergio has said that he's going to present the criteria for approval by the community board. I told him no paid activity. The history has been for all the awards, you can't be paid for what a volunteer service. No one elected official, so it appears political. We're not involving them, have never. And unpaid volunteer service that should the concept of a community board 8 award is for service done for the community board 8 area. So he said he would follow up, but that was a couple of months ago.
You know, just because this has been discussed for so long, I thought one of the other things that we were hoping for was that one criterion or negative criterion be that it should not take into account a service member or former service member's actual service, heroism, bravery, injury.
No, I thought through this that was understood.
Okay,
we are not here, we cannot evaluate
right.
Military service. Did you sit at a desk or did you sit in a tank?
I just thought it is important to be clear.
Well, I didn't, it is important. But I didn't list that as specific to this award because that's generic. You can't be paid for your service. That was an argument Sergio had made several months ago. And he caught me off guard and I said, we'll change the rules. And I said, wait a second, we're not voting on military service. We have no way to evaluate. Is one braver than the other? Is one taller than the other? I have no idea. Okay. Next item, city borough logos. I was contacted by someone who questioned whether or not use of the logos was appropriate for us to be involved in. So I contacted my friend Alex. Alex passed me along to, what's her name?
Marianne White.
Marianne White, associate counsel. I wrote to her, and the key sentence there is, I'm surprised that there's no rule on this. Just surprised me. Well, I then I wrote back to her, no rule, and I'm making that assumption. They think is not can you use the logo, yes or no? Is that permissible? They want to know that you personally contacted them and they said yes or no to you. Strikes me as a generic question, not an individual question. Well, if they said under certain conditions it's allowable, that's a different answer than we have no answer. That was followed up, not by me, that was followed up by, well, actually I wrote to Julie and to Farah saying, here's my correspondence. They did not come out with a statement. So as far as I'm concerned, it's doable unless the person wants to make a contact and be told yes or no. Julie followed up and contacted the COIB and see if she got a file number or whatever it's called for her question, but never got an answer.
I have to apologize because I just looked at my email getting ready for tonight's meeting, and this last week, I just sent it to you. It's still ongoing, but I just emailed it to you.
This strikes me as part of your agenda. Good afternoon. Hey, I cannot advise Lizzie on the use of the logos. I recommend contacting the borough president's office about that. It's going, I just fixed my car engine. Is this going to be a business? Are you going to make money from doing this? If you are, you cannot do any of this using city time or resources, and you cannot sell the shirts during any CECB. That's the problem with
My English better.
it cannot be connected to your CB role, which makes it seem unworkable. If you are not going to make money off the shirts, for example, sell them for cost, you could sell the shirts to other CB members. You may not sell to CB staff because they may feel they have to buy a shirt in order to do their jobs. You could give the shirts to the CB staff. I laughed at that moment because I'm wearing a shirt I bought from where I was working, and I didn't feel I was compelled to do so. But what can I tell you?
And then I responded on the back.
There's more. Dear Mary Ann, thank you for your quick response. No, this is not a business, and we will not be making a profit nor conduct anything relating to this during city events, meetings, offices, etc., nor use any resources of the city. I will follow your advice and not sell to any staff, and as previously mentioned, the staff has not, nor will they, have anything to do with this venture. I will contact the borough president's office as per the use of the logo.
I'm waiting to get back about the motion.
So it strikes me we've bitten into a non-issue for us. I mean, she made sense. What I was getting didn't make any sense. So as long as we're not using city time, as long as no profit is being made, didn't say that we couldn't sell the shirts to the public.
Oh, no, this isn't for the public.
Oh, but it didn't prevent that. So if you want to buy 40 shirts or make 40 shirts, and I'll say 50, and have members of the board now or till you run out of shirts, buy them or give them to staff members, usually special staff shirts. But I think that should lay this to rest unless any specific person wants to follow up on their own.
You know, I think that's probably become common for private organizations as well as public organizations. For someone, not necessarily, well, in the course of their duties, but just an interested member of the staff to arrange for this, which is what happened here. A member of our community board simply got the idea, made it available, said, just contact us. It didn't go through the board office, I don't think.
No,
And it was an email, and, you know, there's probably nothing wrong with it. Certainly nothing wrong with creating the shirts. But if they do start being purchased and delivered, it might be a bad idea for LRE to just offer some very brief guidance with respect to the use of those shirts.
Well, if the person who purchases them stores them, it's one thing. If it comes storage here,
no.
that's a whole other thing.
No, I'm talking about,
Yeah, I know.
I'm just talking about where you wear it. And obviously, there are very few situations in which you wouldn't be able to wear it because it could be a matter of pride. Could be a former community board member who wears it. I still
I
wear,
bought it, I wear it.
you know, sometimes something from the U.S. Attorney's Office, where I work, like sweatpants or something. I'm playing on a tennis court, and that's, you know, 30 years ago. So I don't see it as generally a problem unless you're lobbying.
The main
I-
reason that they wanted the t-shirts, because we're doing a lot more tabling events. And that's really.
I mean, when someone sits at a table, they
Yeah,
have to
when
wear
we're
it.
doing events like the Riverdale we're having, we went to the South.
But you mean
Side.
for community board
Yeah,
members
for
to
the-
wear it, not
yeah.
not to make it available to the public.
No, just like when we're tabling events. So
No, I
like we have the hats, the t-shirts.
Well, the hat would have fit into the same category, but we have our answer now and the parameters. But we can provide further parameters if they want to go further. I did not go to the last barbecue that the borough president ran, but from the two previous ones, I've seen other borough boards wearing shirts, wearing whatever, identifying their particular board.
That's a perfect opportunity to wear
I don't remember if there was a logo on it.
Yes. And have
Okay,
the community board there.
well, Community Board 8
Yeah.
is one thing, Community Board 8 logo is something else. So, I think we've resolved that completely. Are you taking minutes?
it for myself.
Yeah, but you end up redoing my minutes anyway, so you may as well take
You
them.
want this one?
You even have this, help you on your minutes. Yeah, well, my other stuff, moving right
You
along.
have
Okay, restriction of board member communicating with members of the press. I'm gonna table that. because I don't know if we're gonna run out of time. Discussion of CBA vote, amending community board bylaws. It passed twice. It's now on web. It's now on our site that the amendment passed and is part of the bylaws. So, there's nothing really to report. Except it was unanimous, the second vote. The first one was a little painful, not much, but so much for that resolution. Now we have an important resolution before us, and there's a comment I need to make before we begin either rereading or going into discussion. Comment is this. There is, for many reasons, it is not written in our bylaws. It is not written in the GGM, EGM, that a resolution to, it's not written that a resolution for an amendment needs to be vetted by LRE. But that has been the tradition. Two reasons. Reason number one, that's why we exist. Reason number two, we have a better handle, hopefully, on the history of bylaw changes, on the history of the bylaws, how it's created, what's intended, how item A might impact item Z. This is the place to bring it. And in the most recent past, while there has been some resistance, that's the word. There's been some resistance to sending it here. I'm talking about a 3-4 year span. There's some resistance. The fact is it came here. One of them is we'll be discussing later tonight, the changes of the committee structure. And the other was a member of the board who tried to put something on from the floor, which legally she's allowed to do. she was encouraged to send it first to LRE. We discussed it. We voted no. Went back to the board, and the board voted no. So it didn't mean that we didn't have final vote. Final vote belongs to the community board. And so whether it's a courtesy or it's precedent, the place for discussion of a bylaws change, I believe, doesn't begin with LRE, but goes through LRE. LRE can do one of three things: vote to approve it, vote to disapprove it, or, as I've been accused in some recent conversations, of holding it up and therefore preventing it from going through. I don't know that's ever been the case, nor do I intend for that to be the case tonight. So, having said all that, I'm going to turn the floor over to Julie. This is her resolution, and floor is yours.
Okay, I'm trying to send a copy to Jill. Who's on it? I didn't realize she was gonna be on Zoom. The resolution is very basic. It's asking that the board have documented that the chairperson of the board use the government agency email address when conducting business as the board chairperson. Is that the?
It says a whole lot more than that.
Well, that's the reasonings, that's some of the reasonings. And I put all those reasonings basically because at the exec, I felt that you felt that it shouldn't be there. So I was trying to give some reasons why the chairperson of the board should use an agency email address and not a personal email address while conducting business as a board chairperson.
So you're saying the resolution I posted here is not, you've amended it since then?
Very slightly. But I think Artie made copies,
Artie,
and I'm gonna,
Left copies here.
and I'm going to send it to, the very slight edit.
did you address this to where the
I
changes
have.
were?
I put it in red. Did you copy it in red?
Yes.
Okay.
The changes that came out in red were the most recent changes were,
And Jill, I just sent it to you.
Okay, thank you.
the only sentence that already put in red was the chairperson shall only use an official New York City agency address provided by the OTI. And I think what they have to do, the other deletion changes were not.
No, I just did
But
it.
the whole board got an earlier.
Right,
Friday.
right, but they'll, whatever decided here, they'll get to me. And what they received on Friday was the, what I deleted your suggestion.
Yeah.
That was deleted, and then what's in red is really the difference from there. And I can have the old one too on tomorrow. I just think it'd be more confusing.
Just on an English point of view, it's use only, not only use.
This is at the last one?
No,
In red.
both sentences are the same. One, therefore be it resolved, which by the way is just means an extra E. The first therefore be it resolved is the therefore.
Okay,
That's just a typo. Same with the last resolve clause.
but that's not what Marty was talking about, something else.
Marty's making a grammar suggestion.
The chairperson shall use only an official New York City agency email address.
Instead of shall only use.
Does that have to be a bylaw change?
Well, that was the question that Steve and I have had conversation, and Julie has been part of those conversations. Julie, I want to speak for her, believes that this is the strongest way to make this statement, and therefore alternate ways she's rejecting as an amendment. She preferred this way.
And can I just say there's one more edit since I sent this out? And that's a slightly, to take out the word currently.
Well, it's a little more, Yeah, I mean, my proposal, but we should get back to the bigger issue. But from a wording standpoint, that additional red language, which is in the final resolve, and the first resolve clause, says currently provided by the Office of Technology and Innovation. That particular agency may change its name every 2 years.
You can't change the bylaws
So
every year.
instead of saying currently provided, where you're not supposed to have things in the bylaws that are tied to a particular time period, it can say provided by the Office of Technology and Innovation, OTI, or an equivalent city agency authority. And that would hopefully cover the field for the future.
You could enough to say as provided by the city,
That's how it used to be, but Julie wanted to make it more specific.
but you're right.
I don't
That
disagree.
agency and the whole Board of Ed could be.
Right, but it's, yeah, I mean, I have no objection to saying as provided by the city, but I understand a reason for doing it this way.
So then in the last paragraph, what's highlighted in red would read the chairperson shall use only an official New York City agency email address provided by the Office of Technology and Innovation when acting on behalf of the board, currently provided by OTI or an equivalent agency or authority when acting on behalf of the board.
The equivalent New York City agency.
Equivalent to a subsequent.
Jill?
Yeah, I don't, you said you sent me a copy of this resolution because I'm having a hard time seeing what I have or knowing if it's the final version. But my other question is, why is this an issue all of a sudden?
It's not an issue all of a sudden. I just found that through the past 3 years as chair, when I've asked for quite a few different correspondence in the past, if it was used by personal email, like here in the office by staff or even the chair, we won't have records of it. And it's been on a few occasions when we were looking for things and it just wasn't there. So by using the email address that the Borough President's Office provides or this agency, it's the same email address that the staff uses. It's available for the board chairperson to use. And when the board chairperson leaves their position, the emails will still be able to be retrieved if needed by the agency. So that we're using this only for board business. It's not for personal use or anything. So anything in there is, in essence, the property of the board, not the person.
I just thought that this is how it's being done anyway. I guess I'm a little confused. I didn't think that.
It's been that the chairs have used their personal emails, which honestly in the past was okay in a way, because in the past we used to be on board for like 20, 30 years. So that you knew like the turnover wasn't as much. I'm looking towards the future. If I couldn't even find things, and I've only been here for the past 3 years, in the future when you have term limits and the turnover, I think it's important that the board office should have the information that the board chair conducts during their tenure.
Okay.
So I've used, once it was available to me, I've used that the whole time. I think it took maybe about a couple of weeks for me to get the email. And I took it because I just think that to me, I look at the board like a business in a sense. And it should be cohesive and everyone should be able to retrieve it from the agency's position.
I happened to be speaking to Rosemary, and I would go down with the ship that Rosemary used the email address from the city. But in talking with her and looking up my records as we spoke, I found that I used her email address to send her stuff. She never responded on that email address. So
Which one?
the city email address.
When you wrote to her.
When I wrote to her, I wrote her
she
the
didn't
city.
respond.
Because she didn't use it.
I have no response from her, but I never knew it because it probably was picked up by the office. And the office did whatever I was asking for or passed the information on to her. But I have no email from her on that address. Well, I have a lot of emails where I sent it to her
That's
on that
very
address.
I reached out to the past three immediate chairs, and I was advised that it wasn't used. So I was the first one that used it, and I think it would be best for the board to continue.
So that raises the question Sylvia asked, which is a question that Marty and I asked, which is, does this need to be an amendment to the bylaws? Or since there are certainly things having to do with technology change very quickly, even though, as you point out, email is unlikely to not be around for a while. I'm sure that's what they said about horse-drawn buggy.
But
The
if it's not
appropriate
a
name.
we don't have, then it's a new subject, but as long as it's.
Right, but you don't need an artifact in the thing that's likely not to last. But anyway, that's the issue. And I've already had some get back and forth with people. My gut feeling on this is that it's a procedural thing of importance, and I admire you for bringing it up before your tenure expires. But I think that it can be properly enshrined in the ethical guidance manual, and it's not like the people who matter, but the people who are working hard, putting in hours a day for the board, in the board office, the board chair, LRE, they are paying attention to EGM because the EGM tells us what to do about nominating committee and nominations, and it is a source, and it is not an esoteric source. It's really the number 2 source for the board, and we always check both when we want to know if something's covered. We all do that. And so I don't think it's, hidden away in a procedures manual. Wouldn't make this a hill to die on. I think they're both fine. I'm inclined to not do it in a board bylaw because of the nature of its being procedural and changing.
And if it's in the manual, they would still have to follow.
Yes. Just like if someone said to you, we're not going to have the nominating committee do X or Y, whatever our little 14 rules about that.
Yeah.
If I paid attention and I was noticing it, I would say, hey, that's not okay. We talked about it. We had a board vote. There was lively debate 2-3 years ago. And, a lot of disagreement about one thing or the other, but we made these changes. And I think that, if we're not following our own rules, So, I think it would be good.
I want to make 2 observations to bring Jill into the full conversation. The first one is, I fully agree with the concept of setting up annals of the board so that in one place one can find all the things that were done during the course of the tenure of that particular chairperson and the next chairperson and so on. So having it in one place, not in someone's private email, but in the board's email, makes a lot of sense to me. And I frankly wish we thought of it years ago to have that kind of setup so that all those records of when I was chair and so on would be in one place. Because right now what's going on is exactly what you're suggesting. When I spoke with Rosemary and looked it up, fortunately, I set up folders, and so I was able to check those particular emails, and again, find out that I sent but never received. So I'm fully in favor of it. I have 2 questions that I think we need to have in mind. I'm not saying address, but have in mind. The first one is, over the course of the year, 4 years, of the various chairpersons, including the current one, I have sent emails that I thought were confidential in nature, that I asked a question about a person, or I asked a question about an event, or whatever, that may or may not have been public information, but it was leading up to a decision-making process. And one could argue that's O&M. But what I still would, and what I know now is that if this passes, future emails to the chair, whoever that may be, needs to know that whatever they send on the city site has no sense of privilege. It will become, or could become, public record. beyond just, our annals.
You know, I don't
But
know.
that's even if they, I'm sorry,
if-
even if they email each other, that could be foiled as well. It doesn't have to be to the.
Yes, but we made it convenient. If you pass this resolution, we made it convenient for one person to go to the annals,
Mhm.
because maybe that's what it's for. So a researcher can come back 10 years from now, 20 years from now, and find out what the board was working on via looking at the files left behind by the chairperson. And my second concern is, I'll let it go with that. Just something that I believe before we set up the annals, that we want to make sure that things in there, which is a violation, but things in there that could be damaging to someone we're talking about, or someone who's making the question, be called.
You can't do that. That's the bottom line. If it's a .gov email address, you can't delete it.
Even if it's a Gmail, you can.
Well, we're a funny agency with volunteers and like, but there are a couple of things, just real quick. FOIA, as you and I have discussed, and FOIL, that, the state freedom of information. If the proper request is made, or if they're diligent, they're not even going to just accept one form of email address if it's understood that people are using their personal email. They'll say, we also want Steve at, bsfllp.com, because that's what he was using when he was on the board. So the fact that it's .gov or not is not going to stop a FOIL
So I'm
request.
looking forward then, and I'm saying people ought to be advised that with this passing, with this being approved, then anyone who writes on this has to be prepared for that being made public.
Right, I'm just making the point that it was already, and Julie
Yes,
was,
it was, and we told everyone to have their own CB,
but not even
email.
only that. Ever since litigation started to win cases based on what people said in emails and now text messages, everyone is on notice in life. This won't make any difference.
All I'm saying is if I had something to say, if
Mhm.
that might be, I
Embarrassing
think,
or whatever.
confidential, I should not be emailing it, period.
Right.
Verbally, now that makes it difficult sometimes, with a phone call or whatever.
You
Don't put
stand
it
next
right
to a
in.
highway. No, but I mean, it's just a fact of life. This is supposed to make it easier
So you also.
to put everything in one place.
I agree.
And I know.
I just want to sign up, be careful what you write.
But even if I had the Gmail, let's say I didn't use that .gov and I used my own all this time, it's the same principle.
When the Riverdale Press wanted the emails of a former chair,
Yeah.
they didn't get .gov only.
Yeah, they got everything.
Well, I could have gotten back down, they would have gotten mine.
So I think it would be good if like in the, when you put it, like in the Niner, just put a little blurb right next to it to be aware that any correspondence is, because the borough president does tell the people, because I go to the swearing in, and she does tell the new, board members, get your own personal email just for the board, because there could be circumstances where they can retrieve it. She does let them know. And that's why when, people don't have a new one, we remind them. Doesn't change your email address.
I'm curious, is there a difference between what this covers, because it doesn't actually say .gov? I mean, in the resolution. This email address, any different than, this is different than what board members are urged to use, right?
Right,
Right, the board members can use, because remember, they won't give the board members this.
The .gov,
They
it's
should,
just
they
for the
won't.
chair, okay.
They think it's so because he had 1,500 words and all those emails, so
But
that,
there's also, I'm gonna ask this a question of point of information. With the use of this .gov, there doesn't have to be a Freedom of Information Act request if the borough president wants to see.
I think she was so new to.
Oh, she would?
I think she would.
I just
Yeah,
didn't know.
yeah.
If this makes it just really simple
No,
to,
I think she does, because that's a separate office.
because I know that if I work for the, New York City Department of whatever, and my emails that are my official email that end in, you know what they end in, presumably .gov. I'm pretty sure the head of the agency can simply look at my emails. I think everyone's told this is not your personal property. This belongs to the agency. It's certainly true of every private company. People have been very clear that when you're using the email, like at a law firm, ending in the law firm's suffix, extend or whatever, that, this doesn't belong to you. And
I don't think it's not
you use it at your peril if you want to use it for personal, as I did for 20 years.
But if it's the end of the mayor, I would think that it would be under the mayor's office. I don't think people.
When I work for Central Board,
President.
Oh, I just made that as a,
Oh,
I don't know specifically that
Yeah,
that's the
okay.
chain of command. I just mean,
when I work for
Can I
Central
ask
Board,
some question?
I'm sorry, if I work for when I work for Central Board, I don't recall having a Central Board email address, but I was advised, do not assume privacy.
Mhm.
They have access one way or another. They know what you're writing, they know what you're doing.
well, not in modern times, when you work for an organization, government or private, it's always their email.
Many times I get from the office external emails. What category do they fall under?
I think I get that all the time. I'm always like, why does that always show up? It's in the subject.
What are you guys referring to when you say
It's in the
external
subject.
email?
It always, I'm glad I'm not the only one who saw it.
I just don't know what you're talking
Okay,
about.
I'll show you. And
Oh,
then
you
Jill
never got
has,
one?
look, you see this? How it says external, and then Jill has her hand up too. All the
Because it-
emails are
it's
coming,
to
it
a board
Oh,
member.
no, that's not.
What is that?
Everything
that
that comes from
is-
the office.
When something comes from outside,
This
Yeah.
computer
many
knows.
organizations will immediately plop down that bracketed word, external, and sometimes with additional words. It's quite annoying because it clutters up the email.
Yeah.
It just means it's outside, it's from outside this organization.
Beware, it might be a scam.
Well, it
That's
could be,
the
if I
problem.
speak to the board with my personal email address, which I've never changed for these purposes, then I am external to the board, and it'll automatically, the system will automatically say, this is not just us,
Oh, it's
us
the
being,
system that does it.
yeah, it's automatic. And a lot of companies, when you email them and you get back a reply, you'll now see that it's smacked onto your original email
I know, I deleted
because the
it.
system does that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and if I send strings, I actually, because I'm obsessive, I go back to and delete them.
No, because when I do my minutes and there's a question, then I get a question email,
Yeah.
and it
It says external.
yeah, and I'm still in the board,
Yeah,
so
no, but then
it
you're,
just doesn't make any sense.
yeah, but you don't have a .gov.
No, I don't.
That's right. That's why it sees it as
Well, the
something.
members don't have it.
Right. Well, some of them, right, the members don't have it, so everybody's external.
But if the board ever had money, they can actually buy their own domain and give out everybody the same,
Really?
yeah, if they have money, they could do like.
Jill, you have a question?
Have everything.
I guess I'm a little confused about. I'm still confused about why this is an amendment to the bylaws, and also, the distinction between what is official correspondence. I think I heard somebody say it's kind of hard to hear sometimes, but if I send an email to the chair, is every communication official? I mean, I don't really understand why this is such a big
Just,
deal.
I think it's part of the principle of the open meetings law and open government so that, it avoids having, everything's official, not I'll meet you for pizza when you happen to have a personal relationship, independent of the board. But everything that has to do with your being a member of the board and the chair being the chair of the board about board business is going to be considered official, and it's the record of government, so people know what's going on if there's ever a question. I mean, 99.9% is not of any interest to anyone, but it is an
Right.
official record. Yeah, that's just open government.
Okay.
Used to be there was no way to figure out, what was really happening.
Okay. I'm just, it seems like we're, you know, um, overcomplicating whatever it is we're trying to do here. I mean, if the chairperson is supposed to speak officially on behalf of the board, using a particular mode of communication is traceable, that's fine. But I, it just seems like we're overcomplicating this issue. That's all.
It's the same domain that the staff uses. The staff uses, when you look at their emails, it's coming from cv.newyorkcity.gov. It's the same domain.
And Jill, to be clear, this is only about the chair of the whole board, one person, not the rest of the members.
I understand that, but
So-
I don't. Again, I don't understand why it's so. Why it feels like we're overcomplicating this whole issue. This is something, if somebody is the chair of the board, this is a rule that comes, with that responsibility, and I don't know.
Right now, I don't think it exists anywhere else. There is no rule right now.
I have no idea.
Well, why?
Different boards do different things.
No, I mean for this board.
Oh, for this
There's
board?
no rule that says the chair of this board has to use a .gov email.
No, that's why they've been using their personal emails.
Right. That's why Julie is proposing this. Yeah. It's because right now there isn't a rule.
Like for the past 12, 13 years, the board has been afforded the use of having an official email for the chairperson. If the chairperson is corresponding with different agencies, different people saying that they're the board chairperson, I think it was unprofessional. I'm sorry to send out an email from Julie Ray from Gmail opposed to an email address that comes from the office. That's basically all it is.
And I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm just saying, what's the debate? But are we having a debate about why this is?
I have no idea. I have no idea.
Say that again, sorry?
No.
I said, what is the debate? I'm not opposed to what Julie is proposing. I'm just saying I feel like we're debating whether or not this is appropriate, and I don't know why.
No. Initially, it was a concern: should it go into the bylaws or should it go into the manual? After listening to everyone, and I do respect everyone's opinions, I'm changing this to, instead of a bylaw change, to the manual. Because at least it's in the manual and it'll be on record. That was my whole thing, that I think the chairperson should be identified that the correspondence is coming from the board office when they're conducting business on behalf of the board.
So I will entertain a vote. Just want to add, it's not written here, but we will agree. This is the guidance manual. This will require just a little work on the manual to create a separate item under the index, and this will be the item for that index item.
Right. Yeah, but for the purposes of this resolution, with a lot of good work went into, I think that it can just, in the form that Julie recently circulated, it has to be amended here at this meeting today. By amend, I mean revised. It can just end with the word provided to future chairpersons of community board aid, period. And the word in the penultimate paragraph, the words lastly be it further can be stricken, and then the final resolved paragraph can be stricken. And then I think the resolution can stand. I'm just basically taking the last 4 words of the penultimate paragraph out and deleting the final paragraph.
So
Fourth
that's,
paragraph?
No, penultimate, one from the end. Last 4 words after community board aid, those 4 words come out and that paragraph comes out. Because we're not amending the bylaws, we're just making this a resolution of the board.
Okay, so it's just repeated up here.
But this will,
Okay.
that's fine.
Okay.
And just the last 4 words. So it ends with the word community board aid.
do we say here anywhere that we want it in the ethical guidance
It
manual?
doesn't say that now, but I think that once this resolution is passed, that has, that's just a matter of good order. You can certainly resolve that, this resolution will be memorialized in the ethical guidance manual.
So I have a housekeeping question after we take the vote. Is there a motion to vote?
I move that we vote on this, for LRE to sponsor this resolution as revised at today's meeting and submit it to the board for tomorrow's, for discussion and vote tomorrow. If that's acceptable procedurally, if not, then the resolution circulated on Friday would need to be amended from the floor.
That's a housekeeping issue I want to raise, but are we in support of this resolution? Board vote, yes. Sylvia?
This is going into the procedural thing?
It's going into the guidance manual.
Yeah, right. I'm in favor.
Lynn? Jill?
Jill.
Lynn.
I'm sorry.
Are you in favor? How's your vote?
I'm in favor of but as I said, I don't know what the debate is. It seems appropriate to me. If they made some changes now, I can't hear clearly what that was, but it seems appropriate to me.
Well, that's the problem with our friends discussing things. It's hard to debate.
Well, also it's hard for me to hear everything that's being said is what I'm saying.
It's because of the hybrid. So
Steve, welcome to the meeting. I don't know how.
On the resolution that I see with the red writing, or has that been altered in any way?
yes, slightly.
The first therefore is grammatically, the chairperson shall use only an official, that's just grammatically, and we cross out the word currently. And what I'll do is I'll send it to everybody this evening.
Yeah, I think I'm in favor of it.
I'll send that out this evening, so people can have it in the morning.
Steve, I don't know when you've joined in or if you have any opinion what's been going on.
I have no problem with the resolution. My only question is why it's an amendment to the bylaws and not
Well, it's not at the moment. At the moment, it's an addition to the ethical guidance manual.
so. Well, I'm reading be it further resolved, so
The last, I don't know what emendation you have of the resolution, but the last resolved, which talks about the bylaws. It's the first time it's mentioned, frankly, but that's been removed.
okay.
And I vote in favor.
So we have 4 votes in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstentions.
Correct. And we got the first major one out of the way. Congratulations.
And I thank you guys for your feedback.
So Martin,
Listen to us.
so you're going to grapple with the issue, with the procedural issue.
Well, procedural issues, I see it, we have a problem with the bylaws, which say that they need,
You like my question?
I have to look it up. No, I've mentioned it before, that they have to have in their hands the wording of the resolution prior to the meeting, which they now do have. However, that resolution in their hands is being amended. I see no reason why we can't amend what they received yesterday on the floor. So while there may be an attempt, there may be a successful attempt to reach every board member with the revised resolution, the fact is, I know no reason why it can't be amended on the floor.
I'm gonna send them the amended agenda because technically, if they exactly don't vote.
Oh, wait a second. I apologize. I just realized if this no longer, if the proponent of the resolution, which would be Julie from the floor tomorrow, is now withdrawing it to the extent it was to amend the bylaws, then that special rule doesn't apply anymore.
Correct.
Because it's not a change in the bylaws. I withdraw everything I said.
So do I.
3.5 minutes.
But they said we didn't vote on it, so it still has to come from the floor.
No, we just created a resolution that comes from our,
Right.
you're good.
You don't
It
have to
should be
amend,
circulated.
Mhm.
you don't have to amend the agenda to bring this up. On my report, I will say you all have copies of the resolution, which we vetted a wrong word, vetted at our meeting last night,
It should go out tomorrow, though, as soon as
Yeah,
possible.
just going out with the notice.
and we unanimously voted to support the resolution.
Well, that should be in.
There's no, you're right, we're not talking about an amendment, we're talking about a resolution. And the rules much more lax.
Right.
So I have other things to say, but I think they're irrelevant, so I'll skip it. Conflict of interest. I raised the first one because I had an issue years ago, not on the date here somewhere, October 2023, where the issue coming before the board, was that we should support resolution before the city council, which never went anywhere, that the city council should support the retirees and not change their health insurance from senior care to an advantage program. I question whether or not, as a retiree who who's a beneficiary of senior care, whether I'm allowed to vote, because I have a vested interest. And so I wrote to the city council, I wrote to COID asking for an opinion, and it got bounced around a bit until I got an answer from, I'm going to embarrass myself by even trying to pronounce her name, I'm sorry, Ye Sung Nu, who told me that, thank you for your email, Chapter 66 of the city conflicts of interest law does not require you to abstain from voting on a matter concerning the change in city's retirement benefit plan at your community board. So even though I thought I might have, but she cites Chapter 68, which I looked up, and I have here and I really tried to find what was relevant, and I thought this became the most relevant. It may not be what she meant. Come on, colors. Here we go. But the question is, what is a vested interest? Vested interest, if you have 5% of the, you will own or have interest in personal interest in 5% or 5% investment or $25,000 worth, whichever is less, of $25,000 of the firm's indebtedness, you cannot vote. You have a vested interest. I don't think my involvement, I don't know what $25,000 is. I've had a lot of medical care this year, so I don't know if that counts. But technically, I've been told I don't fit this category. So an issue will be coming up the board tomorrow, and I've been asked whether or not, if the group you belong to has publicly declared opposition to a resolution coming up, which is to support single care medical health, does that person have to abstain because of belonging to an organization that took a position? And from what I've read elsewhere, that's not the case. In which case, forget about that. If everyone who has health insurance from any source has a vested interest. If you have no health insurance, and this passes, you have health insurance, you have a vested interest. If you have health insurance and it's single payer, I guarantee you the benefits go down. You have a vested interest. So my opinion, based on the experience I had, is that no board member on the basis, unless they happen to own an insurance company, no person, no member of our board is barred from voting on this resolution. Unless anything think differently.
Mona, you're bringing this 2003 advice up now because you've received an inquiry about a vote
Inquiry concerning tomorrow's board meeting.
because there's going to be a vote on the proposal to have single payer in New York.
That's what I was told.
I forgot. That's already gone around. I forgot.
Are you aware of that? I'm making this up.
No, you're not, because I remember seeing
It
something
wasn't
about
written
that.
anywhere.
Maybe it's coming up to the committee first.
Is it from a committee, like agent?
It's coming to a committee. And from the, I presume from the committee, is they're already.
It wouldn't be from health, it wouldn't be from agent, because it's covered by Medicare, they're already living in a single payer world.
They want to take that away.
But I get the point. I think it's such an issue of public policy that any suggestion that people are disqualified from voting on it is preposterous and absurd. And sometimes the answer to the question is, if it's absurd, the answer is don't worry about it. So that's the answer there.
That's the problem I had with Laura, the house and the
Lighting,
lighting.
but that's at least that's, you can see the development. You can't see all the people who have other.
Well, not where she lives, she really can't see the light.
No, I mean, it's something our brains can conceive of as a limited area, but not. You know. Anyway.
So probable impact, so the two things I think of is probable impact, which affected Laura, and ownership interest. And I think this matter is relevant. Let's bring it up. Now, the report of the working committee. I really don't want to spend much time on this, as important as it is. Each of you, I hope, have read the 2006 report, which I've had debates about. Trey Back is the one who is the author of it, and a committee of 5, 1, 2, 3, committee of 4, including the district manager. I've had an argument with someone that I believe that the research done, I applaud the report that was put out, and I hope you've all read the report. I applaud the effort that was put in to creating the report and the research and the committees and whatever. But the research attempt, as far as I'm concerned, and I know you and I will agree, we want the data. We want to explain why you put these two committees together. An example I give certainly is that combining land use, which has a major agenda every month, affecting very many people, doesn't need to have a subservient second committee to worry about, second area of concern to worry about. Housing, if it doesn't already, it certainly will under the housing shortage in New York City, under the buildings going up. We know where they're going up, what's happening with them. They're going to have a burgeoning agenda. Putting those two groups together, in my mind, does not make much sense. Neither one of them needs the other. Help them carry through. So I did not do any research except for this, and we'll talk a little bit about this. And apparently, the group that was appointed by Julie did no research that I'm aware of because they've shared no information whatsoever. I am troubled by the fact that my communication is entirely through Sergio because, at Julie's suggestion, I contacted members of the committee, asked for their response, asked for their input. Zero response, zero input. So all the communication we have comes directly from Sergio. So here we are. I have told them multiple times that we cannot discuss this, we cannot vote on this unless we have some kind of data, some kind of rationale. Tell us why.
No, sorry to interrupt. Those are two different things. There's data, which is we polled this many people commented, this many people supported this many people supported that. That's the data piece, or the kind of research that the 2006 special committee did. Separately from that, there's the rationale for each proposal. This is what we've observed. This is what would make things better. This is why we think this makes sense. There's none of that for any of
We
this.
haven't gotten any of it. If it ever existed, who want to say if it ever existed, they just haven't shared anything.
But I know that there were individual conversations because I had one. Julia Gomez sent out, or the board sent out, a request for people to schedule an appointment to talk to the committee or a member of the committee about what their views were. And I did that. And I know that I can't be the only one who did that. Julie did that. She shared her views. So there was some data collection. I don't know what their response rate was. Again, we don't know.
I had a brief
There was
conversation.
no contact with me at all.
Okay.
No whatsoever. And also, as far as the youth committee is concerned, they functioned all year with Caesar, and there was no problem. And the committee or the children, well, actually the children were in touch with the library for research and help with college applications. There was no problem or no problem getting information. The librarians are amazing in the 5 libraries that we have. And to put it into perspective, the rationale is because the youth committee needs the libraries. The libraries go to the schools. They are available all the time, so that rationale doesn't even hold any water. And it doesn't matter where it's put. Actually, youth would be better off with a recreation than park, because they have after-school programs and they do attend them in centers. And over the years, that has been very helpful. And they haven't done any homework.
I'm going to cut this because I have told Sergio it's pretty much knowledge, but I don't have the final say. But what I've told him is that we're going to put off any discussion of committee realignment until fall. And we can't discuss much without some supporting documentation. And that's where we are. So I'm asking for a vote of the committee to do exactly that. Table discussion of committee alignment.
Are you including in that the other recommendations?
They're the 3 now. The 3 are separate. We're talking about committee alignment. Or realignment.
Actually,
Or in our case, dissolution.
in my opinion, and not because I'm sitting in LRE, but he believes, Sergio, that the things that we take into consideration, the issues here, can be dealt with at the executive board. And I can't imagine that you don't really agree that we already have 13 committees and we're basically rushing through to give everybody a chance to speak and to address whatever issues are coming up, and to have this committee in there and give them the same time to delve into sometimes very meaty things. You don't have the time.
Or for the working committee, so
Yeah.
you discuss this at the board
No,
meeting?
not
I'm
the,
sorry.
no, but actually the executive.
The proposal to dissolve LRE is what Sylvia is referring to, and saying that it can all be handled at exec without the LRE committee
Okay, but-
function.
The suggestions coming from the working group, and that's all this is, he was supposed to, the group was supposed to contact all the board members, and even a survey was even mentioned, and the board office would help, but every board member should have been contacted to get feedback.
Oh,
And
of
then,
course.
and then their suggestions, the group compiles the data and brings it to the LRE for discussion. It's not a given, it's just, this is what the board members, this is
No,
what
I know,
they
but
want.
I'm assuming it's going to the substance of one of the recommendations. You guys are discussing. two
Because the
different
rationale, it doesn't make sense.
Well, I
Someone
thought-
is addressing the LRE.
Okay, I'm gonna call it out of order because it's not the direction I wanna go in.
That's-
But for your benefit, I listed all these things that
I'm sorry.
LRE has done. And I don't think it's stuff the executive committee takes between lunch breaks, deals with. So let's go back. I need a vote on, to table the discussion of committee realignment until the fall.
Pending provision of data and rationale, or just we can take it up on our own?
Pending the submission of data and rationale. I don't know who's gonna provide it, committee is being disbanded.
Just brief discussion, I would be in favor of that motion, but I do want to plant the seed that maybe as an alternative to the working group or pending whether or not we get more information, that it's possible that maybe LRE can grapple with some of the issues that the working group was tasked with, because there may be room for some good changes.
I'm open to, if they have information and can provide it, we'll discuss it. But right now, we're just tabling it. Yeah. You want pending?
No, I don't disagree. I just wanted to plant the seed for this committee to take on some of these issues itself next year.
But we didn't vote to kill it. We voted to discuss it. What discussion we had, it would be extremely helpful if the working group, even after it's disbanded, is able to provide that information from the work they've already done. Or choose to continue doing whatever. It would have to be informed, whatever, no further conversation.
Can I just say that during the summer, perhaps the office, because hopefully it'll be quiet, maybe the office could like do a survey, so when you guys come back in September, you starting fresh on this, you have some of this suggestions for your feedback. We could do a nice survey for you, this way you have documentation.
Not this year.
Well, right now, I would be hard pressed. I mean, it's the wrong person, hard pressed. To ask the board, the committee, the office, to take on additional responsibility, and they're going to be shorthanded.
It'll be a little bit slower though, it'll be a little bit slower, and to do a survey on the computer,
Uh,
the computer does it all.
Not as easy as that, not as easily as that, but, okay, we can come up with a month and a half.
And I've been asking for them to at least try to seek out interns to help on things like this, because an intern could be remote, and they
Great
could
project.
easily be doing this.
So,
So is there a vote?
I move to consider the question that you posed, the motion. Second,
Seconded,
to consider the question that Marty
to
was.
table
I
these items,
already voted. To the table.
okay? Are you there, Okay, Jill?
Yeah, I'm here, but I don't understand what is being seconded.
Stated.
I can't really hear clearly.
I have
I
already advised,
Maybe-
I've
Go
already
ahead.
advised Sergio and Julie and whoever would listen that this discussion of reorganization of the committees without information provided by the working group um, would be tabled until the fall. I'm just
Okay,
asking for a vote
I
of
support
that.
that. I support that.
Okay, so that's three, I make four.
4-0.
4 out of 4. Steve, you have any comment? Okay, I don't know if they can, but I can hear it shake, so. All right, so then now we come down to the three other issues. The first is whether or not SCREE should become a standing committee. Again, we have no information. We don't have any information other than our own personal knowledge. Second one, require board members to be one committee rather than two. And the third item that's not part of that we just voted on was to permit all appointed members to participate in any committee meetings in which they attend. That what the wording is.
Community board members do. I think that.
Permit all appointed members to participate in any committee meeting, but they may only vote if they're a member of the committee.
Isn't that a given?
To me, it has been a given from day one. And if I didn't think it was a given, the chair or all of our chairs have always said, thank you, Mr. Public. We ask that you bring this to the committee and discuss it at the committee level.
During the full board meeting.
And it's presumed by that statement, you'll have the opportunity to make your case, be able to speak. I'm making the assumption that any board chair would provide exactly that same courtesy to a board member. So I don't believe a board member who's not a member of the committee. I don't believe this is necessary. What I need, and I will report that this is not necessary. And board chairs, committee chairs, please be aware. I don't know why this was raised, but anyone who comes to your committee, public, member of the community board, your committee members, have the opportunity to speak. Now, at the point at which you go into session to vote, people can watch, but the data, the research has been done, the data has been collected. It's up to the committee to make a decision. And that's when members outside the committee, whomever they may be, will not have their chance. They're done. They've been given their chance. So,
Before we move to the next item, I just want to say that I don't think any action by LRE is necessary or by the board. There is absolutely nothing wrong with the way our committees function. This has always been as you say, the board chair says at almost every full board meeting to the public, a place to engage and to have your voice heard is at the committee level. So this is just, there's no point to this.
so I didn't understand this from the first moment.
So I don't think it's necessary to make any comment.
Well, I think we should. I think as a courtesy, is there maybe we don't know everything. There may be a committee chair or two who have not allowed this, and the individual who made the suggestion, and I say it came from Sergio, the individual who made the suggestion may have been denied speaking time. So maybe an experience. I don't know. He hasn't given any information, but I think all chairs have to be reminded it's the place where the public and your colleagues can speak. So
There is a procedural, I think it's called sort of procedures for committee chairs. It's a document that's generated.
It's on the website, the board website.
Right. I don't know, that may address something on this order.
so we're left now with the two important ones. The first one is SCREE, in which the recommendation was that SCREE has proven itself and therefore ought to be a standing committee.
And
Not a
I did
special committee.
I didn't speak to the chair, that was just a recommendation.
Want to clarify that for, I don't know what, you're making a denial or a revision?
Or neither, just a statement.
Okay. So the recommendation may not have come from Sergio directly, may have come initially from Julie. Be that as it may, it was made, we're taking it seriously. And so the question is, where did it go? Where did it go? I'll come back to that.
Are we discussing that proposal right now?
Yes.
Yeah, my view,
Oh, okay. That's what I want to find. There it is.
my view is that, SCREE was, I think, established in 2020. So it has been 6 years. But I feel that because SCREE exists as a committee that, in a sense, regulates and speaks to other committees and makes suggestions about how other committees, other standing committees of the board, I think it is actually appropriate that it be a special committee. It's kind of a meta committee. It's not really, it's everything it does is really with respect to things like economic development, health hospitals, social services, youth, housing. It's all focused on applying principles of racial equity to the work of the board as it gets done by other committees. So I actually think that it makes sense for SCREE to be a special committee and not a standing committee. I also think that it would be good to see what SCREE's track record is, with a chair other than Margaret, who's been extraordinarily dedicated. But I'd like to see how it, whether it stands on its own, after she's no longer. I believe she's the inaugural chair.
No, she's the inaugural. She's not the only chair. There are other chairs of that committee.
We have we've had,
I thought she was the first chair.
no, she was the one who we were in 20 that because of the discussions that evening followed through with
The one discussions. It arose towards a month later in the killing of George Floyd. And Sergio made the recommendation to a number of us, and I include myself, who thought the wording was terrible. He needed some wordsmanship. Sergio would be here with it. And given the time and the feelings, the emotions that were involved, I think everyone agreed in concept it was a good idea. Didn't necessarily agree with the wording, but that's how SCREE came to be. And she was not the first chair. I don't recall, I can't name offhand who the chairs were, but I would say anywhere from 3 to 4 people who chaired that committee. They want to say the most diligent. I mean, I would go along with that. Don't get in trouble. She's been a very effective chair. So, but your observation is that what it does in concert with other committees, and as a result, it's effective in that role. And it hasn't demonstrated a particular focus for which they take responsibility.
I think it's a watchdog, and I think it's effective in that way, in raising awareness and asking other committees to toe the line and pay attention to what they're doing through the lens of equity. But I don't see it yet as a standing committee. So that's my position.
So the point of view?
Well, when what started, Roz was
That's okay.
chair.
I couldn't remember the name. But I was-
She was fantastic. She really
she
was.
did the reports too.
I mean, Margaret is good, but she was.
Oh, was
super.
it Jill? Jill, were you chair of the screen at one point? Why do I think Jill was chair? Maybe
Jill, you have a
Um,
comment?
I can't really hear everything that's going on. I have been the chair of SCREE at some point.
Oh, wow.
There's been quite a few.
So the other person
I was
should go on
also
first.
very instrumental in drawing up the documents after we adopted the resolution. Julie and I mean, not Julie and I, the current chair and I drew up the documents together after Sergio made the initial proposal. At some point, I became the chair of SCREE. My feeling is that initially, SCREE was supported because it was a reaction to something. And I was very concerned that once the drama, I guess I'll use that word, sort of faded away about the initial reasoning for developing SCREE, that it wouldn't be taken seriously. I think it's a really serious committee. And I will tell you that it's really hard for people to become involved in a committee that's not a standing committee because you don't get credit for being on that committee. And that annoyed me to no end because I worked harder on SCREE than I have on any committee that I've ever worked on, both because of my passion for what our principles were, but also because there was a lot of work to be done and whether people are willing to acknowledge the importance of making the various committees think about the ways in which we can improve ourselves as a community board in this respect. I think it's really important work. So I actually thought that we were tabling all of this until the fall, but it seems like based on what I can hear, that we're taking piece by piece what came out of this working group. But I don't think it's fair to expect people to put in work to things that are not real committees, so to speak. And
You
that
think that
shows,
SCREE should be a standing committee?
excuse me?
You believe SCREE should be a standing committee?
I think in a general sense it should. I don't know if, I haven't really been in touch with everything that SCREE has been doing since I left the community board and then came back because I refuse to put my time into it at this point if it doesn't count as committee work. But I think that it should be a standing committee. And I don't know. I know at one point there was a proposal that the name be changed. I think that there should be thought given to that. But I think it's a really important function of what we ought to be doing. And if we're going to be honest, that there are real issues in this community that a committee like SCREE can address. So yes, I think it should be a standing committee.
Thank you, Sylvia.
I'm not against it.
Just to respond to your first comment, Jill, my emails and the agenda specifically split out the committee restructuring from these three questions. In fact, I have a resolution on the agenda for consideration if we agree to any of these, the two of these.
Why
So,
shouldn't, I don't understand.
Marty, I saw what you sent out and I interpreted that to mean that this working committee, whatever it's called, was not formed for the purpose of addressing that question.
yes, I agree
You
with
may
that.
recall
However,
that I was on the initial working group or working committee or whatever, and for whatever reason, that did not make much progress. But this was actually one of the things that we were considering on that initial working group. So the thought that this came about, I don't know if it was ever really made clear to me initially that this wasn't something that could be considered. as part of our initial thought process of combining committees or addressing the structure of committee work. So yes, I did see your communication, but I don't even, I don't know, I don't know how we came to the conclusion that this wasn't part of the initial mission of what this reworking was supposed to do. So yeah, I know about that, but I don't agree that that was actually the case initially. I think we had a broader mission. So if Sergio had something that I don't know about that was more specific, I don't know about it.
I'd like to make a motion to table this issue along with the others.
I can't hear.
I'd like to make a motion to table this issue as well until further
Yes, I
information
agree.
is provided or until the LRA committee wants to take the microphones there.
I agree.
It's supposed to be very sensitive, but no, I mean, I'm glad Joe brought that up because I lost track of it. And I think that this, for that reason alone, this should be tabled along with the committee restructuring because I think it's.
I agree.
So there are two votes. There's no motion, but if there were a motion,
I made the motion.
Okay. 2 votes so far to table. Sylvia? 3 votes. I'll go along with majority. Although my motion, which I thought got to the seed of it all, was to recognize the work that it has done and appreciation for the work that it has done and to encourage them to go forward with more. So since the vote was the table, that's where we are. Now, the question of whether or not, question is whether or not we should go from a requirement of 2 committees to a requirement of 1 committee. And again, there's no data, there's no supporting information. So I sent out a survey, which unfortunately was not well responded to, perhaps not well understood.
I responded and sent it in, but nobody tabulated it.
You let you know, so I apologize. But I'll take it and I'll add it.
Sent on April 28th at 3:34 p.m.
I will add it
It formatted
data.
it formatted in a nonsensical way, so maybe people couldn't understand it.
What I tried to do, I sent out 2 surveys. Survey number 1, where they want their notes specifically from the 5, 6, 7, whoever the number is, of chairs impacted by the suggestion that they be combined or eliminated or whatever. What was their opinion? Were they asked their opinion before it was done, or as a follow-up? I plan, well, recommendation will be to close your committee. A comment. I want to know whether or not people who were chairs of the committee had a feeling about it. I received minimal response, as the chart I shared with you does indicate. Did I share that chart?
Yes, as part of the expanded agenda.
Yeah. I think I had a sentence or 2 about it.
It was in the expanded agenda.
No,
That's not what you're talking about?
no, that's not.
No, that's it.
That's the one you
That's
filled
the
out.
no, this is the tabulation in your expanded agenda.
Right. But the one I'm talking about, I didn't include.
No.
Or I included in concept here, whether or not there was a comment made by, I don't know, find it. Was there a comment made by the individual chairs that they approve or disapprove or had other suggestions concerning their committees?
This is only the survey I got, Marty, because I'm not a chair.
Correct. And I'm not going to spend time on it. I received little response from chairs concerning the future of their committees. I also sent a second survey to every board member in which I asked and this is the part that confused people, I asked on the first three columns if the committees remained as they are today, would you join two committees? What's your first choice? What's your second choice? I wanted to know if there were second choices. The concern was, are there people who in the board really believe there's merit to being a member of at least two committees? As I pointed out, the executive committee, there are a number of us, and is one change. But basically, I am, well, all of us, the executive committee, everyone is a member of two committees. Everyone is a chair of a committee, which requires more work. Now, those who are chairs of the committee have the extra work. Those who are members of the executive committee have another committee. So, and some have even more committees, whether they be special committees, Greenbelt, whatever, Green and Gray. There are a number of people who have extra committees. So the idea of people serving on more than two committees, serving on two committees, is not alien idea to many, many members of the board. So I asked whether or not being held to it, September is the real time, but if all the committees remained as they are, which was your first choice, which is your second choice? And then the second set of columns, if the committee were merged as suggested or eliminated as suggested, what would your first and second choices be? The amount of information I had was minimal. I received now 11 responses out of 40 some odd active members.
Part of what was problematic about it, not saying this is why people didn't respond. Well, not only that, the first column didn't include all our standing committees, the first questionnaire. And the second questionnaire didn't include all our standing committees, even though it's not affected by the merger. So it was very hard to, LRE, for example, appeared on the second option.
Well,
Which,
and
as
many-
you described it, shouldn't have appeared. That would be,
many of
so that
the,
was completely confusing. That's the part.
many of the people who did respond are not chairs of committees.
Well, that went to everybody.
This is every board member.
Oh,
There were
that
two
one went to
different
every
And
board
board member. So at Julie's suggestion, this survey will be handed out at tomorrow night's meeting. If Artie is correct, we will verify tomorrow morning for me. And my question is, do I have access to the restroom if needed without steps? My recollection is there are steps. I can't make the steps.
Wait, there is one way.
There's a ramp.
There's a men's, I think it's the men's, like, when you walk in, all the way at the other end.
Can I suggest that no surveys be distributed until the survey is fixed so that it includes all the committees and makes the proper changes? Because to just recirculate that survey, which bamboozled a lot of people, it doesn't make any sense to do that tomorrow.
I'll look at it tonight and see if I can reprint it. Leave them a note. Print it until I talk to you. So the question is, for us tonight, no survey. Question for us tonight is, do we as a committee support the idea of members of the community board belonging to having to join only one committee and the option of joining more unless they want to, but only one is a requirement.
As opposed to the current situation,
Which is two requirement, even though many people belong to more than two. Yes.
So I just want to speak briefly to this proposal. The first is procedurally, I think we should table this until there's further information. Same as with all the other issues that came out of the working group. We we should table it for further discussion. It doesn't have to be put off till the fall. But part of the reason I want to say that is because one of the biggest issues I have with restricting it, with changing the requirement to one committee instead of two, is that yes, people who've been on the board for 5 years, 6 years, whatever, who grew up in a regime where you were required to join two committees, they're going to do it by body memory. They're going to participate, as you said, a lot of people do the equivalent of 3 committees today. That's true. But if I'm a new person coming onto the board or just recently joined in the last year or so, and I see that's the general rule is one committee, and I know I'm a busy person and I got kids and I'm doing this and I'm doing that, I'm going to do what's required. I'm not going to join 2 committees. I'm not saying I never will. I'm not saying no one will, but that will become the general standard. And you will find committees with 2 people on them and 3 people on them, because as of now, if I took out my committee sheet, we have committees with very few people on them. And it doesn't mean the committees are not effective, but very often they don't have quorum, they don't have enough people to get stuff done. And the reason I think it should be tabled, I think this is I feel it's very strongly, is that if you start merging committees and you have a streamlined board and you have many fewer committees, joining one committee may make sense, but you can't consider them, I don't think, completely in isolation. You need to know how many committees you have. When you add SCREE as a standing committee, for example, that may attract members to SCREE because it's now a standing committee. But if making SCREE a standing committee turns our current 10 committees into 11, and at the same time you're considering having the requirement of only 1 committee membership, you're shooting yourself in the foot. So I think that it should be considered with the other proposals of restructuring and not in isolation, and I move to table. I'll hold my motion. Other people have spoken.
Yo, you had a comment?
I agree. I don't know why we're going through this, bit by bit and piece. I think that we have to figure out, or someone needs to figure out, how to get people to participate in even where we're going with this going forward. But if we're tabling one part of it, I think we should table it all.
I think, I've been told that I'm wrong, but I think that the problem lies with people who want to be on board. They go and they are interviewed by the borough president, and it's not made, it's in her application, but it's not really stressed as to when you become a member of, say, Community Board 8, you have to be on 2 committees because they don't take it seriously.
Because there's no legal requirement, Sylvia. There's no legal requirement. There's nothing in the charter that says that. Well, it doesn't say we have to be on any committee, quite frankly.
It's in our bylaws, and we have the training in the summer. Marty always, we go over that as well.
Yes.
It's definitely in the bylaws that you have to be in 2 committees. And every summer, the past 3 years, we've had the training for the new people, and thankfully the older, not older, but the ones. Yeah, and they are told, and they're given the pathways and the manuals and everything. Everyone knows that they have to go to 2 committees.
But they don't follow through.
Why do we even have that requirement to begin with? When it's not part of the city charter, when the city charter doesn't say that as members of a community board, we have to be on 2 committees.
We're bound by the city charter saying what we cannot do. Our bylaws are entirely ours. It doesn't have to be in sync with the city charter anywhere.
We just can't go against the charter.
My reading of the city charter is not that we have to be on 2 committees. And the fact that we have it as part of our bylaws means that it's something that we can change, and it's not in violation of the charter. So the question, at least initially, when we started this initial working group or committee or whatever it was where does it say that in the city charter? And it does not.
It does not. It is Walt Friedlander, chair of it, who wrote the bylaws, put in 2, it could have been 7. But the fact is, we have 2. And I will tell you, I for one believe that you should belong to more than one committee.
I mean, it also has
Well,
something
we'll
to do
discuss
with whether your board, you know, they did that research for the 2006 report, and I was surprised that some boards in the city had 17, 20 committees. If that board had 20 committees and there was a requirement to join only one committee, I can assure you there'll be committees with no members.
No, because then you would just make it so that a certain amount of people could be in every committee, so that every committee is filled.
That's
all you
another
have to do.
possibility.
And that's also in the bylaws, that you can select how many people are in the committee, the chair and the board chair and the committee chair decide. So you won't have it empty because you just cap it. You have a certain amount of people, you have a certain amount of committees and people.
But if we have 40 members on the board, which we frequently end up with, you would have 2 members per committee. If
That's
you
why
had 20
you should
committees.
streamline it.
I know, that's why I
That's why
said they're
it's just
related.
streamlined. I know. And so I'm on the same wavelength, but people just aren't doing it.
I'll accept your motion.
So we should vote on the
Motion is made.
to take
seconded.
this along with everything else.
I think we should stick with the truth.
No, the question is, you want to table it. Add it to the other suggestion.
A motion to table the decision on whether to go 1 or 2,
I don't
along
have to
with
make the decision.
making SCREA standing committee, eliminating LRE, restructuring other committees to combine them or separate them. I'm saying I think we should table all of it
Yeah,
together.
to table it, I would vote.
And I believe that Jill's already said table.
Yes.
Steve, you have an opinion.
Sorry?
I asked Steve for his opinion.
I know, I'm just kidding.
Oh,
All
You're
this
the
stuff-
one.
Steve? Steve Matthews. You're not live. You're mute. You're muted.
Are we going to table it, or are we doing this piece
I
by
just wanted
piece?
your opinion, that's all.
Oh. Uh, Either we table the whole thing and come back to it in the fall, or we split it up. And I mean, I can't vote on anything because I'm not a member of the committee, but it seems to me the options are either to table the entire thing and consider it in the fall, or split it up and vote on individual pieces.
All right, so 4 votes to table. I disagree with the concept that we have to take it all at once, because come September, October, November, I'm sure we're gonna bifurcate, trifurcate, whatever it takes to discuss the specific items to give it their due credit. So we're not gonna take it as a chunk in September, October. We're gonna take it in parts.
You have to do it by December. Because everybody, not everyone, but the first group is out in March. So if you bring it to the board in December, you're gonna have feedback, and then you bring it back to them in January, and you vote on it.
Well, the key issue I was concerned about this year, which I don't want to be a concern next year, if we decide to put one committee or 2 committees together, or all the committees as suggested, the nominating committee needs to know in advance
Right.
what kind of chart, what kind of slate they need to come up with.
Which means you really need to plan to have any votes on bylaw amendments affecting things like what the standing committees are by March at the latest. And that's only the second vote.
So we have to push. So I don't believe it can be handled all in one night. It will be broken up.
Sure, but the final decisions are not necessarily, I don't think, should be made piecemeal. They should be made with an awareness of everything. So maybe you discuss the 3 meetings or 2 meetings, but you have your votes
Like December.
subsequent.
Well, some of them are.
All agree.
Given, like land use and housing definitely has.
We do feel that way, but other people may not agree. I agree with you, but other people may not.
They need to sit in both committees to see what they do.
Again, that's the substance. I'm not commenting on
So given our I'm cruising to this point. What do I have here? Okay, I
Marty.
think you all know, or should know, I heard my name.
I just want to ask a question. This document that I'm looking at,
Yeah, I know it's the resolution.
the document that you're sharing on the screen,
Yeah,
I'm trying to figure out which document this is.
that's on my extended agenda.
Okay.
I think the last item, I'll double check, but the last item of substance is I contacted Conflict of Interest Board, Jeff Tomei to be exact, Tremblay to be exact, and I didn't include my letter, which I told him. Actually, Steve and I have had Steve Matthews and I have had this conversation for a couple of months now. And I contacted Jeff Tumblay, because it bothered Steve Matthews, bless you, that person A commits an infraction and person B commits an infraction, and this person gets sent to Mars for the rest of his life, and this one gets a 2-penny fine. And Steve wanted to know, well, I want to know how they figured out why would the discrepancy in the amount of the penalty given to various people. So I contacted Steve Tremblay. He's the one who puts out dispositions every month, and told him we read it, but we're curious why there's a disparity. And he wrote back, glad to hear our dispositions are so popular at CVA. And then he was good enough to give us this chart, which I have given you. They take into account what they consider aggravating conditions and mitigating conditions. So what makes it a worse crime for this person than that person, or why this person shouldn't be held to accountable as much as the other person? Is that right or wrong? I don't know. But basically, they have a trial, and after the trial, whoever makes the decisions considers these. There's no rule. There's no bench thing the judge holds free a penalty.
It's not even a trial. These are based on 90% of these are based on settlements. It's like essentially a plea bargain. The stuff that we read are almost all settlements signed by the person.
So I sent this to you just for your information. It alleviated something that's been biting at Steve and me for a couple of months. And Steve, any comment? This is your issue. Steve Matthews.
It answers the initial question I had, at least, how they proceed. But what's missing from this, and it is there action taken by these decisions are circulated to the community boards. Are they also sent back to the agency that has employed the individual for some kind of action? Or is that the end of it?
Many of these will say an agreement between the city and the agency to come to the decision. The person will pay X amount of dollars to the city and Y amount of dollars to the agency. So there is communication. At least there should be in all cases.
I don't have any doubt that these are publicized to the agency. I just want to say the thing that was, these are all very common sense factors that they're listed here. But I may have had a different question than you guys did. I wasn't so much surprised by why person A was levied X penalty and person B, but rather that in the face of extraordinary malfeasance, like years of running a private business while you're in your truck for a city agency, these penalties seem to be so often minuscule
Yeah.
and a slap on the wrist, so that if, $50,000 was involved, the penalty was 500. And I never understood. Or 2 days of comp time were removed, or something like that, or a week of vacation. These were things that bordered on the criminal. And it always shocked me that the penalties were so mild. Not so much that I felt that different people were treated inequitably vis-a-vis one another. But that was my reaction. And that's why I was always interested in what you and Steve discussed about the penalties. And what this tells me is they have very intelligent factors, but it doesn't answer my question about whether we can get away with murder in this city.
My only involvement with that agency at all, I told you about, I ran a citywide program for the Board of Ed, and I had teachers working in various sites throughout the city. And I was advised that a given teacher at a given school was putting in time sheets, but not putting in time. So he's being paid as a ghost. And I learned about it. I got him, and I said, you will work, supervise X number of hours at no pay to make up for the amount of money you got. You shouldn't have gotten. And then I contacted the agency and said, I have an employee who did X and Y, and this is the penalty I gave to him. And they said, you can handle it, you're done.
So this was in the days of the Wild West, when there were posses and vigilante justice.
Just could have been. I just I didn't know about them, and it was the most logical thing for me to do.
We'll be reading about Marty.
Yeah, right.
And speaking of what you said, I happen to love this one, the last one.
Is this the greatest hit, Marty?
This one, so many people have done this, they do it again.
Yeah, DOE always has them.
Well, they're the ones who get the tickets. So tickets were given out free of charge to the kids who went, Lion King on Broadway, and they had 3 extra tickets. So one teacher gave it to her 2 adult sons and one son's girlfriend to go and see. So they saw a Broadway show for free. And the penalty was, and I haven't been to the theater in a long time, those 3 tickets, cost of the tickets, $693.
Amazing, but it's true.
They let her off the hook. Pay the money. You got a free show. You paid for the
Right.
show.
That's worth
And
it.
the discussion.
This one, I feel like.
Good night.
Take care.
Sorry.
Thank you for coming. And
Just have another hour of COIB.
Email it.
no, I'm jumping through it. I'm not going to go over the spreadsheet. Any unfinished business? Any new business? Any German business? Being none of each, I adjourn the meeting. A motion to adjourn.
So move.
Motion.
Anyone want to stay overnight? Please do so on your own. Next meeting and our last meeting is Monday, June 8th. So I wish you all happy Mother's Day, those who celebrate it as such. And I wish you happy Father's Day. Well, we'll see you before Father's Day.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you. And Jill, I hope you're feeling better, and thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Thank you, Marty.
Better.
Let's see if I remember how to get out of this. Stop share. Okay. Oh, we did record, didn't we? No, we didn't. Oh, it says stop recording.
We did.